Hey guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers. I'm Dejan Kovacevic. He's Chris Halleck over there in the box over at the Steelers facility on the south side. This is Double Shot of Steelers. It's presented by our friends at FanDuel. Steelers are heading to Detroit this weekend to take on the Lions. The Steelers will do so as a first-place team in the AFC North, as the fourth-place team in the American Football Conference, and as such, have themselves in position for a home playoff game. Chris, what's new over there?
Well, I mean,
That you can say.
Yeah, there's not much that you can say based off of a practice because you can't report on what you see at practice. Lights are shutting off.
There you go. Boom, boom, boom.
It's a nightclub now.
Yeah, lights shut off. But no, Derek Harmon was on the field today. I can at least say that. I can't say what he did or how much he participated. We have to wait for the practice report to come out on that. But I can say, just based off of what we're allowed to shoot at the beginning of practice, he was on the field today. That's an improvement over last week. So they are in a better spot with him at this point, which is a good sign. When you're about to play a Detroit team that's got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and a really good offensive line, you need all the help you can get, regardless of the splits with or without Harmon. They got to be able to stop the run, and you need all hands on deck at that point.
Yeah, it can't be overstated, really. I mean, the Steelers were more than commendable, I thought, in the way they handled Devon Achane and the Dolphins over the weekend. The running game, Achane did end up with 60 yards on 12 carries. That's a 5.0 average, which is pretty good for most others. It's not what Achane had been doing to other teams.
No, it's not.
In fairness to him, he was also playing with the ribs. So, you know,
and what the defense did well was they still forced the Dolphins into a good amount of third and medium and third and long, which put them in obvious throwing situations, which is exactly what you wanted to have happen in that game. So if you don't allow Achane to continuously put them in 2nd and 2 and 3rd and 1 and all that kind of, like, it makes it a lot easier to keep him at least bottled up.
Yeah, exactly. So what they have to do, Chris, is more of that. I mean, they have to find a way to make sure that everybody's involved, everybody's making the plays that they're supposed to. And at the end of the game, when, you know, people like me and you are trying to figure out what was the player of the game, who was the player of the game, what was the play of the game, that we have a tough time.
Yeah.
You know, that we go, it could have been anything.
Metcalf did the thing, though. That was a little bit that we both kind of looked at each other when Metcalf threw Minka and got into the end zone. We kind of looked at each other like,
that's it. That's
yeah. But no, it was difficult coming up with a player of the game because, you know, you could have made a case for a number of guys, and that's usually the type of game that usually means that the football team played pretty well.
Yeah, and among the many people that deserve credit for stopping that run, one of them was definitely Patrick Queen. Had 11 tackles. I believe 9 of them were solos. Big props to Queen. If he was in pain, you could not tell. He was.
He was in pain.
Same for Jalen Warren's illness. Jalen, oh, man, he ran hard. I know Gainwell got all the headlines, and he should have, but Jalen had some runs. Let's just say that he softened them up a little bit.
Yeah.
And even Caleb Johnson, with his 2 runs, one of his was trucking somebody.
Yeah.
The 3 running backs really put together something special in terms of their physicality, in terms of wearing down the opponent. I just really, really impressed with them as a group right now, Chris.
Yeah, for sure. No, they're playing. It wasn't their best game in Baltimore, for sure, but they bounced back and played really well against this team. And I'm curious to see what they're going to do because this is an interesting matchup. But, you know, I've started doing my Detroit homework. And it's going to be interesting because the Lions are in base defense, which means only 4 defensive backs on the field more often than anyone else in the league. They are not the norm. The norm now is to be in nickel the majority of the time. Well, the Lions are not just like leading the league in base defense, but they are like in their base more than anything else, like legitimately, like 60% of the time. And if you're the Steelers, do you fight fire with fire and continue? Hey, we're going to put our bigs up there and we're going to play against that base with our bigs, or do you say no? We're going to put some smaller, faster guys out there, and we're going to try to make you defend them with bigger, slower guys. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But either way, the running game has to be part of what they do. And I think that's always been the case.
Paul says that Section 508 was cold. I love hearing stuff like this. I love hearing people in the seats. If you go to the game, always share your experiences in this direction. Love that stuff. But best game I've been to, I've heard so much of that. People who were freezing and then just didn't mind. And then because you almost feel like you're part of it, because you're part of the whole Pittsburgh setting that's tougher than those Florida people. You know? It's just it adds to the vibe. Good stuff. Frank Rice says that the Steelers need to make a statement in Detroit. I do not believe that they do, Frank. Respectfully, I am not into statement making in December. You'll hear me talk about things like statements and forging an identity and making progress in certain facets. You'll hear that from me in October and maybe dipping into November, and that is it. You better know who you are by then, or at least better know who you want to be by then. Mm-hmm. But making a statement, there's no statement to be made. When? The Rams, what kind of statement did the Rams make by beating the Lions 41-38? What was their statement? Their statement was that they got a W.
Yeah.
You know,
it doesn't always have to be about something where you're doing something to send a message to the rest of the league or anything else. It's just about getting wins. Now, I mentioned it yesterday, and I've done a little bit more digging on this. The Steelers are in a really, really good spot right now. I understand that if it comes down to the Steelers and Ravens finishing with the same record, especially if the Ravens end up beating the Steelers in Week 18, that it favors the Ravens, because the first tiebreaker, because if that were the case, if the Steelers go 2-1 and the Ravens go 3-0, and the one loss the Steelers have is obviously against the Ravens, then the tiebreaker actually comes down to how each team did in common games. It's not conference record. A lot of people think it's conference record.
I thought it was conference record.
It is not. It goes head to head. If it's tied, then you go division record. And if that's tied, then you go common games. And the Ravens have the advantage in that. Now, that's the only advantage the Ravens have in this entire situation, because the Steelers could go 0-2 over the next two games. And the Ravens could prove to everybody, that including like myself, that we're wrong, and go and beat the Patriots and the Packers. And you'd think, oh gosh, the Steelers are in a lot of trouble. Well, as long as the Steelers beat the Ravens in Week 18, doesn't matter. They win the division. So they're in a really good spot. Now, of course, you want to keep pace, because there's a situation here where if the Steelers play in Detroit, the next time they go to Cleveland, they could, if they win in Detroit, could already have the division wrapped up by the time they step on the field in Cleveland, because the Ravens will play twice after the Steelers play in Detroit.
Ravens are not going to beat New England.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to go to Green Bay and win. So this is the situation here.
I mean, we have to factor that into this conversation before we start getting all kinds of tiebreakers and stuff. The Ravens aren't going to beat these teams. That's a damaged football team. They did not right themselves by taking care of the Bengals.
No, the Bengals are a mess. The Bengals have been a mess for a long time. And so, no, I'm just saying, like, do the Steelers absolutely need to win in Detroit? No, they don't. And if there's a game they're going to lose in these final three games, this is the one you want to lose, because it's out of conference. Okay, whatever. You can still finish 10-7. Yeah. But if they go into Detroit and win, by the time they step on the field in Cleveland, they could be division winners, because the Ravens will have already played twice. And if they lose both of those games...
Dylan Smith, thinking of the public greater good, says that my brother and I were debating taking our shirts off for Renegade the whole game. How do you take your shirts off for Renegade the whole game if it only plays for like a minute and a half? But chickened out. We chickened out. We were trying to be respectful of those around us. Never worry about being respectful of anybody at a football game, especially not that deep into it. Renegade played early for Renegade, third quarter. But, man, did it get a reaction. I mean, the whole Renegade thing was buried a billion times over, which leads to this beautiful question. M. Murr says, do you guys think that the cheaper tickets brought out a different group of fans for this game? I feel like the NFL sometimes prices people out. The NFL does not do individual team ticket prices. Every team does that. So if you ever want to blame anybody or credit anybody for a certain price level, do it at the team level. Do you think the cheaper tickets out? First thing that happened before we went over there, Chris, was that you looked, just out of curiosity, on the secondary market to see what these tickets were going for. And what were they?
I mean, Upper Bowl that was as cheap as $27, which is, I mean, that's cheap for a baseball game.
That's insane for Jacksonville. It's
honestly, that's cheap for a baseball game, much less a football game. And then Lower Bowl, I think like 40-yard line was like, I think it was like $80-something, which again, that is
Dylan got his for $40 each. There was a lot of that in the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people who chose not to travel to Pittsburgh to use their season tickets. Oh, you guys know where I'm going with this. And those tickets ended up getting bought up because a lot of people wouldn't have wanted to travel by Pittsburghers, by people who are here in the market who get either priced out of the place or just kind of boxed out by those who bought personal seat licenses and have held on to their tickets forever and maybe only use a handful of them each year. Unfortunately, a lot of those end up in the hands of the opponent. Now, that wasn't going to happen in this case because the opponent was the Dolphins, and those people aren't coming up here when the temperatures are in the teens. So it was the perfect storm in a way. It was the perfect way to get people from our city and its immediate surroundings into the stadium. And I'm not telling you anything that would be any different than if this happened at a Penguins game, because it's the pricing structure, and hockey's way worse in this regard. It keeps a lot of real fans out. No offense. By real fans, I'm also talking about the ones who would be giving up those tickets, but it keeps others out. And when you let them in, they're going to behave as such. They were not acting like they were putting in some kind of time by being there. They were thrilled to be there.
Yeah.
They were, Dylan says here, craziest part to me was how bought in the crowd was. You never would have guessed that 2 weeks prior. The people were chanting to fire Tomlin and booing Renegade, but they really were. The crowd was super crazy into it. And we saw that, Chris, from the beginning. There was just a whole different vibe in there.
Yeah, there was. And like after typical plays, which, a sack is a big play, sure. But I mean, how many of those happen every season? It's not like an interception or, their sacks are far more common, but sack of the quarterback, the place would explode. Whether it was the Peyton Wilson sack or the Jalen Ramsey sack, I mean, the place was, going nuts. It was a heck of a crowd. It was probably one of the better crowds I've been to. Yeah.
It made it through to the players. If you guys missed my written column this week, that was what I ended up writing about. I went around the locker room and asked the players how they felt when they heard that sound, but it also went through them, of the Peyton Wilson sack. There's all kinds of good things were happening at that end of the field. And then Wilson and Alex Highsmith are chasing Tua, and you're thinking, they're not going to get him. They're not going to get him. Oh, they got him. And there Tua goes down, face plants into the turf, and the place just exploded. It exploded. Loudest sound. For me, it was the loudest sound of the season at Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah, I'd probably say Dublin was still probably the best, but no.
In Pittsburgh. I said Acrisure Stadium.
No, I know you did. That's why I'm saying, like, definitely this season in that stadium. Yeah, that was definitely the best one for sure. It was a great crowd on hand, and it says a lot about the city that with the weather, and there's a lot of people that just be like, you know what, I love the team, but screw that. I'm not going to go freeze my butt off for 4 or 5 hours.
Half and half says, how did the stadium react when Minka went down for a moment? I mean, a player goes down, the place gets quiet. There's nothing specific to Minka or a former player about that. He says it was cool seeing the Steelers players check on him. I don't know what they showed or didn't show on the broadcast, but I do know that the first person to come to Minka when he went down was Aaron Rodgers, who was not his teammate.
Yeah.
Rodgers, well, I mean, Minka was here for a while. I'm trying to think of what that timeline was. If they didn't cross paths here,
no. Okay. If they did, it was.
But there's an understanding there.
Minicamp would have been the only time they
exactly, because that was when Aaron showed up, right?
Yeah, because the trade didn't happen until after that.
So we're going to try something a little bit different here with the rest of this program today, and I hope you guys like it. Normally, in season, we don't do a whole lot of longer term stuff. There's a big game coming up this week. There was a big game that was just played, but I got something I want to put to Chris here. He doesn't even know what it is.
I don't.
But I want to ask if what you're seeing from Aaron Rodgers right now is enough to make you believe that he either could or should be back in 2026. We're not looking for a prediction here. We're looking for the quality of his play. We're looking for his durability issues. We're looking for his want to. And we're also looking, and I don't know that I'd put this at the bottom of the pile, even though I'm mentioning it last. We're looking for his escapability. Yeah. Because that's been probably the one thing that's hurt him in a couple of cases, literally, the most, where he looks like he still thinks he can get out of there. He did it a couple of times this past week. The closest thing that came to keeping him from having a perfect game were those sacks that he took when he didn't need to. So can he come back? Should he come back? Would the Steelers want him back?
Well, I do know, I reported this in a Friday Insider on our app a few weeks ago. There have been no official talks between the two sides, and that wouldn't happen during the season anyway. It's the Steelers' policy. But the Steelers would absolutely, the door is open for a potential return. But obviously it would have to be both mutual on both sides. Rodgers would have to want to come back. But from the Steelers' perspective, they've said it's been a joy working with him, a joy having him in the building and having him be the professional that he's been on the field, off the field, in the locker room, everywhere. I think, yes, with the way he's played, with the way he's led, I do think that if he wants to come back, if he wants to play another season, yes, I do think he should. That should be probably your top priority. That doesn't stop you. If like the Steelers, that should not stop the Steelers from trying to go get a quarterback in the draft. Now, we have yet to see what that draft class is going to look like. There are some players that we were expecting, and we talked about this going back to July and August before the college season started. We were talking about a whole bunch of like Lenora Sellers and all these guys who were possibly going to be part of the draft class.
Yeah,
well, Sellers is
either bombing
is
or coming back, or
So you never know who's going to actually leave. There was not a lot of talk about Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. He ends up winning the Heisman. So they should still try to go for that long-term quarterback, but you have to have Rodgers quarterback wrapped up before you do that. You don't want to draft a quarterback, trade up, and say, all right, kid, here are the reins. When the Chiefs did that with Patrick Mahomes, he sat behind Alex Smith for a year. You would prefer that quarterback, and who better for a young franchise-type quarterback to learn a year behind than Aaron Rodgers.
That's it. Chris B. brings up here, Will Howard is very intelligent. A second season learning from Rodgers may well be immeasurably valuable time for him. It's funny. I observed Howard after the game Monday night. Kid's so interesting to keep an eye on because he's in a constant state of absorbing. And you can just see that he's looking around at different situations in the locker room. This is I'm not talking about the game here. Mm-hmm. He wants to see how certain guys carry themselves. When Rodgers will sit at the stall, there's a row. This is home and road. The four quarterbacks are always placed together. by the equipment managers. And there's Rodgers, and then there's Rudolph, and then there's Howard, and then Skylar Thompson is over there. They talk a lot. This is also very unusual. I did cover Steelers for a long time and not seen the quarterback room communicate as much as these four guys do, and it's all four. Will is the kid in the middle who is just taking everything in. He watches how everybody, including when Mason Rudolph was getting his starts, how do they handle themselves with the media? How do they handle casual conversations with reporters or with others? Do they go around the room? Do they say something to their offensive linemen? Do they thank? Of course they do. And Aaron Rodgers is as good as anybody at that sort of thing. Mason, I know for a fact, will do the same thing after he plays. You go around the room. You're the quarterback. You got to find everybody on your offense and thank them for giving their best for you. He makes note of all of that. And I'm not, whenever I talk about these scenarios, burying Will Howard before anybody gets too defensive about this.
If anything, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no. It's just I was going to read Wayne's thing here. He just says Tomlin will not run with Howard. Nobody's suggesting that he will, Wayne. Nobody's suggesting that.
No, but the one thing, if you want any extra incentive for the situation I mentioned earlier to play out, Steelers win in Detroit, the Ravens then lose to both the Patriots and the Packers. Steelers have already won the division at that point. So with that being the case, you could, in theory, start Will Howard for at least one game. And I would do that if I'm thinking of the future of the team. And obviously, the playoffs are going to matter at that point because you've won the division. But if you want to, Will Howard didn't get the valuable reps in the preseason because of the injury. So, man, let him be the quarterback in Week 18. Against a Ravens team that most likely doesn't have a chance to win, or even if they do have a chance to get into the playoffs somehow, which I don't think they would if they were lose the next two games. But either way, meaningful NFL reps, and you got to look at the kid. You got to look to see how he does against an actual NFL defense.
Now, Rodgers is 100% of all of the people who would make this call. I really believe that. I believe that if Rodgers tells Tomlin and Omar Khan and Andy Weidel and Art Rooney, I got one more in me, I believe that he'll be allowed to do that.
Yes.
I also believe that there won't be any pressure on him to do so.
Nope.
But here's where this gets interesting, especially with, not to mix sports here, but with the Edmonton Oilers in town last night. If you have a run and you get close, and I'm not making any predictions here, but let's just say that it happens. If the Steelers have themselves what you would categorize as an encouraging run, and I don't know what that is. Maybe you win one playoff game and you really, really battle it out in the second playoff game, even if you fall short. Okay? Let's just say that happens. But then you look around the field. You look at your roster. You look at your makeup. You look at the things that you've learned along the way about yourselves. Let's say that you found your left tackle in Dylan Cook. All right, not to put too much pressure on Dylan. I hope people don't make too much of him. He didn't have a great camp. He disappointed in some ways. I like him, and I liked him then. He's just such a tall dude.
Yeah.
As long as he has leverage and movement, he's going to be fine. And so far, he's had that. But if you have these surprises come up, these pleasant surprises, and you feel like you're taking strides toward where you want to be, then what do? Turn 2026 into a quarterback project year?
It's hard to do that and compete for a Super Bowl, which again, that's always the Steelers' goal.
Yep.
And that's why I say, when you're looking at who your quarterback can be for 2026, your preference is Aaron Rodgers, because he's played well enough overall he's played well enough that he shows that he can still play. He can still throw the ball. That there's no doubt about that. I think that would be your preference. And again, that doesn't have to step on any potential future quarterback, even if you were to draft one, even if the Steelers somehow Dante Moore slips because of pre-draft stuff, but he ends up being some guy who's available at 8th overall and the Steelers can trade up and get him. That doesn't stop you from having Dante Moore sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, so there's a whole lot that can shake out from this, but just for Aaron Rodgers in 2026, if he's willing to, with the way he's played, and especially we still have yet to see how these final 3 games go and to see how the playoffs go if the Steelers make it to the playoffs, because the Steelers were planning on keeping Russell Wilson for months. And then the 5-game collapse happened, and
his collapse too. His own collapse
it was
too.
his own collapse too. It wasn't just the team; it was also his play. And it went from we're talking about extending him before the season to by the time the season comes to an end, we want nothing to do with him. So right now, where we sit on December 17th, yes, I think that would be the best option, but there's always the next 3 games and maybe the playoffs to see how if that can affect it at all.
David asks, obligatory Will Howard question. If seeding is still on the line, would you start Howard in one game? I would not. You have to put your team into the best possible scenario to be prepared for playoffs. And the quarterback who would come in for you in playoffs would be Mason Rudolph. So Jordan addresses that himself here with his own question. Wouldn't you want Rudolph to get some playing time just in case? Yes, that's unquestionable here. This isn't about – go ahead.
I would agree with that. I think the only reason I mentioned Will Howard in week 18, I'll be more specific. The only time I would really consider that would be if the Steelers have the division wrapped up and they cannot move from whatever seed they're in.
Yeah.
But if they can possibly move up to the 3 seed, I'd at least consider it because you have a long-term decision to make a quarterback.
How did we turn this into a Will Howard thing? There's certain subjects that just, for whatever reason, just get the community going here. I mean, I could mention Roman Wilson right now, and Roman Wilson will come along here. I don't get that. P. Lawrence says, I'm not sold on the 2026 quarterback class. I'm good with kicking the can another year. And Wayne says the same thing, too. I don't think the QB is in this draft. But then I could also say, if you look at certain guys that have been taken over recent years and recent drafts who did or didn't excite you, I could say how many people were super stoked about C.J. Stroud?
Good amount of people.
I'm saying, but to this extent that you thought he was going to be this guy in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, he was 2nd overall. I mean, yeah, he was there. There was a debate
where he
whether
was
he
drafted.
should go first.
I'm saying that I never heard all that much about how he's this big, whatever guy you can build a franchise around. We see guys taken 1st and 2nd overall. Nobody was saying that about Cam Ward. He was number 1 overall.
Yeah, well, the one quarterback
guy they were talking about was taken in the 6th round.
No, well,
or 5th or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, the one quarterback that I think nobody was talking about going into the draft was because he was the one consensus guy that was he's a franchise type quarterback, and that was Cam Ward. Nobody talked about him because he was the only guy in the class. Then there was conversation about Shedeur and Jackson Dart
a little bit,
right? But if you really want anything from an example, Jackson Dart could possibly be the book is not written on that kid at all, but he's been better than I think a lot of people expected, myself included. Now, he hasn't done enough as a rookie with the Giants, a really bad Giants team, by the way, to be maybe I was really, really wrong. But he's at least done enough for somebody like myself who was not a Jackson Dart guy in that last draft to be he's done more to at least get me to scratch my head a little bit, so I don't know. It's not a great class now, not nearly as good as it was expected to be. But the good thing is, at least from the Steelers' perspective, is that every time I've spoken with somebody, and it's not been that often, but it's been more than once. Every time the long-term quarterback thing has come up, it's not just been 2026 that's been talked about. They all the response has always been 27 looks pretty good too. If anything, 27 might be better than 26. That's an actual response I got from somebody one time months ago. I'm talking like months before the college season started. So it doesn't have to be 2026. People like to think 26 because the draft is in Pittsburgh and the storybook writing would be great because the Steelers would draft their next franchise quarterback, in their backyard. But it doesn't have to be that. And the one thing that I know this franchise will not do, as long as Omar Khan is the GM, is just take a quarterback in the first round just to take one because they need a quarterback. They're not going to do a Kenny Pickett again.
He saw how that worked out. Yeah, Useless Knowledge has been pounding this question throughout the chat, trying to get us to answer it. Are we done with Broderick Jones? I mean, for the season, Brod is in some trouble. I think that's obvious. When you look at his injury status and the way they're treating it, they have some kind of concern there, and they should. Anything that's involving the neck, the back, the spine, something like that, you want to be quadruply careful. I have not heard from anybody or sensed from anybody that Broderick is some sort of imminent return. So what ends up happening in that case, Useless Knowledge, I like sometimes to just say those out loud, is that the team will, if they experience success with a certain line combination, they're just going to leave it alone. If Dylan Cook continues to perform as he has, and by the way, I'm going to say this again, just go easy on the Dylan Cook thing. Yeah, Tomlin acknowledged publicly this week that they were doing certain things schematically to help him out. Just go easy.
Aaron said the same thing today too.
Okay, he did?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone understand that they were probably asking Broad to do a lot more, and whatever those limitations or assistances are that are being put in place, believe me, they're all now on film. Okay, so everyone else knows what it is that the Steelers were doing to help him out over there. So just don't, he's not going to be Jonathan Ogden like this.
All right.
Although he is tall.
He is tall.
like Ogden. I see a situation happening where the line just overall puts together its parts and finds some sort of chemistry heading into the playoffs. But remember, we don't even know Isaac Seumalo's status for this week. Tomlin went out of his way to say that he doesn't know that Seumalo's out. So you just hear sometimes with a lineman in particular or an edge rusher, you hear about a pec and you go, they're toast.
No, triceps is this one, but it's the same thing.
Triceps, biceps, any of these muscles where you're forced to have the arm go the wrong way. That's scary. That's scary stuff.
I have the update on the practice report today if we want that. 4 DNPs today. 4 did not practice. Those 4 players are James Pierre, Nick Herbig, Isaac Seumalo, and TJ Watt. Derek Harmon was a full participant today. So,
now,
really good news for Derek Harmon.
This is what you couldn't tell us earlier, even though you were watching it.
Yes. I could say he was on the field. That was the extent of what I could say. Practice reports out. Harmon was a full participant today. So
that's obviously terrific news for the Steelers. I wouldn't take the other ones too seriously because unlike last week, this is actually Wednesday for practice. It's not a fake Wednesday that was moved to Thursday.
Yeah.
And what that means is that whenever Tomlin will say things like, we expect the so-and-so to be limited early in the week, he's talking about Wednesday.
Yeah.
So the rest of these guys are, they're in a spot where, they look like they could still come back to practice tomorrow or even Friday and show Tomlin enough. It's that time of year.
Mm-hmm.
It's that time of year. Guys are going to get out there. And TJ is everyone keeps asking about TJ. This is a totally different. Don't worry about whether or not TJ practices. Okay. First thing you need to do is see TJ's smiling face back at the facility. And then for TJ to deal with everything else that's going on that's a result of this. Don't be thinking about TJ right now. I mean, other than, hey, get well.
Yeah. I would. I'm not a doctor, and I would not take like listen to a YouTube doctor or anything and say, hey, listen, like this is what this one doctor says. Like absorb the content however you want to absorb it. But this is a completely different situation with TJ. We're talking about an organ here that needed to be fixed. We're not talking about a muscle that needs treatment or a bone that has to heal or anything like that, where there's a more concrete timetable usually. There's no way to know. So I would literally just think of TJ Watt as out indefinitely at this point until proven otherwise. That should be the default that I think Steelers fans need to be in. And considering what happened, that should probably be the appropriate thing. Just he's out until we've seen things that can say otherwise.
We're going to take a couple more today here. Patrick Grimes says, Dylan Cook, next Kelvin Beachum. I don't see similarities between Cook and Beach, not in any capacity. They certainly don't have similar builds. Beach was a stocky, get under you, stout kind of guy. Beach also was probably a higher grade version of a Calvin Anderson, which is the way he was reared in Latrobe, which is that he learned how to play all the different positions before Beach figured out where it was that he'd get paid and got really good at left tackle. He's still in the league somewhere, is he not?
I think so.
I think he is. So, no, there's not a similarity there. I begging on Cook. Go easy. And that's not me predicting his doom or anything like that. It's just, he had himself a nice game. He rose above. He was standard is the standard and everything else here. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Beachum is still in the NFL. He's still with the Cardinals. Played there in Arizona longer than he's played anywhere else, including Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he really was a Cardinal more than anything else here. Also an incredible leader and everything else. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Beach as a human being, but he's an ordained minister and everything.
One of his family members served me one time at a Brahms in Mesquite, Texas.
What's served? What's a Brahms?
Like the Brahms is. Oh man, I don't. Yeah, Brahms is an ice cream place.
He served you ice cream?
No. One of his family members did. I don't remember
this is
how
random,
it came up.
Alec.
Yes, I know. But we're talking about Kelvin Beachum, and
Kelvin Beachum's kin are serving Chris Halleck ice cream only on today's double shot of Steelers.
This is a long time ago, by the way. I think this is when Kelvin Beachum was actually playing for the Steelers. It was like that long ago.
Okay. Joe Abraham just says Merry Christmas. It's starting to feel a little bit like Christmas. We had the snow and everything. It felt like it.
It did. Yeah.
We never have snow on actual Christmas, though. Did you notice that? The one day you like really, really want it.
And I don't think we're getting it this year looking at the forecast. So if anything, I think we're getting rain.
Yeah, rain on Christmas is lame.
Yeah, it really is. It's not fun. Not fun at all.
What else do we have here?
It's been feeling like Christmas at my house for since before Thanksgiving because the kids always want to put the Christmas stuff up early. So, yeah, we have the elf on a shelf in our house and all that stuff. So,
he does get to meet the players' relatives. That is very, very good. Raina also comes in with some a little bit of a suspicious tone. How do you even find out the relatives of the person serving you ice cream?
I don't. So from what I remember of the
Beachum on their tag.
No, so from what I remember of the conversation, I was there with a couple of buddies, and we were talking about the NFL because I think it was on a Sunday because we were talking about the games that day, and we were talking about the Steelers game that had happened, and I guess the person overheard and was like, talk about the Steelers game. And we were like, yeah, it's like my was it cousin or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was like plays for the Steelers. I was like, who is it? It's like Kelvin Beachum. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And yeah, that was the only. I'm not a paid stalker, guys. I'm not a paid stalker.
What kind of jerk would have put that up on the screen? I'm sorry. If you're funny, you're going to make it onto the screen. Simple.
That was
simple
not
as
any kind
that.
of digging at all. That was literally just happenstance, as happenstance as it gets.
Justin Watson gets the final word today. Says, I finally joined the premium app at DK Pittsburgh Sports, partially to find out why DK doesn't like this offensive line. LOL. I'm inserting the LOL in that. I think they've been a lot better, Justin. I really do. Way more important than anything that I think. They're feeling better about themselves. They are. And you can tell the difference. You can tell whenever they're trying to get through a post game and it's just saying the right things, and when they're really feeling it. They did this week. Miami's front isn't the most formidable in the league, but they are 14th in the league in sacks. That's not terrible. They've gotten to the quarterback. They didn't get to, they got to this one 3 times, but it's funny that the 3 sacks really were more on Rodgers than the line. He just held the ball forever and then tried to get out, which he can't do anymore.
Well,
those are the only.
Well, the one he was just literally just getting down to keep the clock running and make the.
Okay, so it's really it's 2 sacks, right? And
it's really 2 sacks. Yeah.
They only made 3 human contacts.
Yeah.
With Rodgers, and those were the 3. So he was really happy with them. They were really happy with themselves, and I think they should be. If you want to be like Justin, and I think we all do. See, they're laughing as they think I'm kidding. Justin brings some of the best insights to this show.
Mm-hmm.
Justin knows his stuff. Except for those times when he says something that totally contradicts what I have to offer. What's that?
Explosion.
It's not an explosion. It sounded like horses stampeding me. Is that a punch? That's a slap. That's what we were looking for. We're booing Justin for disagreeing with me.
The slap sound is just perfect. It really is, because I could just imagine her reaching across the table and just wanting to smack.
Hashtag Dolly Mike. Yeah, this does not count, by the way, for her getting a mic. The sound effects, this lame thing that she's doing here. What a ridiculous program. David Harr says, Mama is going to drop the gloves, DK. I call her this in public, and she hates it. I say, Mama.
No.
She's the mother of our children who will be coming home tomorrow for Christmas. What's with the slap sound?
Because it really is perfect.
My favorite are the people who hate the ending of the show, and they just want to know that they can safely tune out because they're not going to get any more football. Like, look at Jacob here. So you're saying this episode's over, dude? Are we over? Yeah. Are we over? Yeah, the train is leaving the station. Yes, you are gone, man. Denny wants to know, what are the rails, even if the show keeps going off the rails? Anyway, all I was saying was that Justin became a member of our app. We've tried to take it easy on you and some of the selling on that, but if you want to really support this company and what we do, go and download our app, the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. Do that off the App Store on Apple. Do that off Google Play on Android. Listen to me here, because this is how this show comes to you as often and as joyfully as it does. Go get the app, and then from there, you don't even know what you're doing now. So the email that you're going to send me goes to dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. Okay, that goes to me. It's not to some Bangladesh call center or whatever else here. dk@dkpittsburghsports.com. I will answer you directly. If I have not over the past couple of weeks, as Jason rightfully accused me of something, it's because I have been slaughtered with work. And I will be getting to all of that tonight. That is a promise. So send me that email and I'll get you the massive discount on the app here. Leroy says the app is great. I converted recently. And Jeff says, isn't there an app?
There is an app.
And Jacob points out correctly that I am against Bangladeshians, which there's no way that's what they're called. Like, people don't believe me from out of town when I say it. The word for Pittsburgh is well, you're a Pittsburgher. Get out of here. There's no way you're called Pittsburghers. But we are. So if you're from Bangladesh and you're watching this, including from a call center, let us know if it's actually Bangladeshian or is it like Bangladeshi? Let's take a look before we sign off for today. Bangladeshian does not show up. If you are Bangladeshi is the adjective. So like you're a Bangladesh, it's a Bangladeshi is a citizen or a native of Bangladesh. Don't say you never learned anything here, Halleck.
Oh, I learn something every day. Whether it's something useful or not, I learn something every day.
Yeah, everybody's making these up now. It's Bangladeshites. No, it's not. It's Bangladesh-y. That's what it is. We are not Pittsburghians. They are not Bangladeshers. Let's just sign. Oh, they're the Bengals. That's what we are. The Bengals actually, they walk like Egyptians, so it gets really confusing. All right, Halleck. It's time to sign off.
See, why do you get to do the jokes and I don't? Why is it okay? Like,
oh, they've heard your jokes. You want me to leave these people with you? I can do that. Here, we'll even do this. Here, we'll switch. Look here's jokes, everybody. Here comes jokes.
I'm just surprised you were able to figure out the switch on the video there.
You like that?
Yeah.
There he is, everybody. He's sitting there in the dark at the Steelers facility preparing to share with you.
Using my phone as the light, by the way.
Pun jokes ever. Oh, is that what you're doing, really?
Yeah.
Oh, where's your little ring light? Didn't we get you
at
a
home?
ring light?
At home.
Oh, man.
Well, when the lights were on earlier, I was sitting with no light, and then I looked and the right side of my face was yellow because that yellow padded wall is right there. And so I used that light to make it not look yellow because, I'm not a member of Coldplay.
Salty wants a joke.
Tell
the Norm Macdonald moth joke. It only takes 5.5 minutes. Guys, you know how I gave you the assignment to go find the gorilla playing in the air tonight?
Yeah.
Now, your assignment for tonight, we're going to start giving you homework. You have to find the video where Norm Macdonald is on with Conan O'Brien and he tells the moth joke. Just type Norm Macdonald moth joke. Well, he said he wanted to tell people jokes, so I gave him the stage. He said, here's your stage. Then he had no jokes, so now I have to defer to Norm Macdonald.
No, I said that the pun jokes have to be well timed. Like when we're talking about how weird it's gonna be when we see Tristan Jarry and Stuart Skinner facing each other. They're gonna be wearing the wrong masks. How jarring of a sight that's gonna be. Like, they have to be well timed. Yeah.
Well, there's ever a time for a joke that unfunny. Eddie Kaplan says for some reason there's still 700 of us watching this. It's actually 1,500 if you count all the platforms, and you're all ridiculous for having stuck around for this. We will sign off for real. You guys go. Norm Macdonald moth joke. Get it done. She recommends the Norm Macdonald moth joke.
I didn't say anything.
Ridiculous.